Is he actually ready to commit to you, or is he not? And even if he says that he is, or he acts like he is it real, or is he faking it? Is he pretending right now? That is what we're going to be talking about today. I am going to give you some indications whether this is real or whether he's faking it. And there's 8 of them. Hello, my name is Matthew Coast, and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about whether he's ready to commit or not, and how to know if it's for real or whether he's faking it, whether he's pretending. And so there's a lot of women that have come to me recently, and they've wasted years with a man who doesn't want something real with them, or a man acting like he wants something real and he treats you like he wants something real, but he never really says it. Or a man who says that he wants something real, but he doesn't really act like it. Or even a man who acts and says that he wants something real, but then sometime down the road he like disappears, or he loses interest, or he just ghosts you, or he starts pulling away, or whatever. Maybe you've been in one of those situations where you thought it was real, and so you went full in and you gave everything. You gave everything to a man, and he ended up slipping away, losing interest, or just kind of pulling away completely, going cold, disappearing on you, even ghosting you. And one of the reasons actually for that one is that men have certain needs, right? And a lot of times women they feel like they're giving everything to a man, which I recommend that you never, ever do. Never do that. There are only a few things that men really need. There's actually 4 specific ones. So what are the signs that he's real or he's faking it for commitment? First one is transparency. So he's upfront about what it is that he wants. He's willing to get real and vulnerable with you, at least to a certain degree. Some guys have some issues, right? Some like trauma and some other issues and whatever in their past. And they're afraid to open up, right? They're afraid to really get real with you and all that kind of stuff. Some of those guys are still good men who want to be in a real relationship. But here's the problem. If a guy has like a lot of insecurities or a lot of past trauma or a lot of baggage or any of that kind of stuff, if he hasn't dealt with that before he gets into a relationship with you, he's probably not going to deal with it in the relationship with you. And if he does, it's going to be a very, very painful experience. And a lot of times those guys are only with women because they feel that neediness, and they want to have somebody in their life. And you feel like, oh, he's that wounded bird, right? And you're like, oh, Mr. Wounded Bird, let me take you and nurse you back to health, right? And then you want to nurse him back to health, and you throw him out of the nest, and he starts flapping his wings, and he just keeps going. And he just keeps going. You're like, Mr. Bird, where are you going, Mr. Bird? And he's like, thanks for the help, bye-bye, right? And he just kind of like used you to like heal himself and figure himself out, and then he like flew off to another nest, and you're left wondering what just happened. And so you don't want to end up in that kind of situation. So if a guy has a lot of past baggage, that might be a red flag, at least a yellow flag. And it's something to look more into, because it's like, how much nonsense and craziness and all this stuff am I going to have to deal with here in a little bit? And so here's the thing. If he's not willing to talk about what's going on with him, that should be a red flag of some sort. But remember, the magic is always in the middle too. So, make sure that your insecurities aren't bombarding him. And, but when a guy is really ready to commit, he is as transparent as he possibly can be with you. And the more transparent he is, the more he trusts you, and the more he feels comfortable with you, and the more he's ready. If there's no real depth, if everything between you two is shallow, it's probably not real. Remember that. If there are no serious conversations, it's probably not real. Number two is future plans. This is one that a lot of women sometimes get totally wrapped up around. They like hear future plans and they're like, oh, he's giving me future plans. And they're like, take me, right? And the guy's like, oh, maybe, right? It kind of depends. Kind of depends. And so if it's early future plans, you want to wait a little bit. You want to wait a little bit. And we're going to be talking about that later. But he wants to show you that he's serious about his future. And he wants to include you into that future to some degree. If you've been dating a guy for 3 months or more, and he's not including you in any kind of future plans that he has going on of any sort, that should be a major concern of yours. That should be worrisome. There's a red flag going on there. And if he's talking about doing things, things that he wants to take you to do, he's telling you about his future, he's talking about his future plans, and he wants you to be included in them as well, that's a really, really great sign. If it's just about the here and now and just experiencing the moment, you're like, oh, but what are you looking to do in the future? Are you looking for a commitment? He's like, baby, don't worry about that. I want to be here with you right now and just experience the moment, right? Which is, in some ways, that's a really good thing, right? You want his presence and you want him to be there with you right now. But if he never wants to talk about the future and he never wants to include you in any of that, it's probably not real. It's probably not real. It might be a real connection. It might be a real connection, but it might not be real about him wanting a commitment. And so that's what we're talking about here. Does he want a commitment or does he not? And so number 3 is he makes time for you, which is all about making you a priority. Men make time for things in their life that are important to them. For things that matter to them, he makes time. And so when he's making you a priority, that's a big green flag saying that he cares about you. He's waving a big green flag and he's going, baby, I care about you. That's why I make you this priority. And again, don't take this to an extreme. So I had a woman, I think it was a couple of weeks ago or a month ago or something like that, who came and she was talking about this guy and she's like, oh, he's busy all the time with work. And I want him to make me a priority. So he stop working and, quit his job. And it's like, whoa, quit his job. Like what? And it's like, come on. Right? First off, if a guy is so busy that he doesn't have time for you in his life, even if he makes you a priority when he can, you have to decide whether that's something that you want to live with or not, because that's probably not going to change, right? If a guy's like a serious workaholic or whatever, the best people to be with workaholics are other workaholics. Because then with the little time that they have when they're not being workaholics, they can hang out together and love on each other, assuming that they have similar schedules. The worst is 2 workaholics that don't have similar schedules. And they're like, I've got an hour at night. And they're just like, I've got an hour in the day. And it just doesn't work. So another one that you want to watch out for in making sure that you're not doing it around this as well is if you have a whole bunch of insecurities and then you start like bombarding a guy and you're like messaging him 50 times a day and you're like, get back to me. You're not making me a priority, right? And he's like, I have to work and I've got other things going on in my life. And that's really an indication that there's something going on with you, right? Something going on with like your attachment style, or some of your insecurities, your feelings of self-worth. Number 4, he's protecting you. So when a guy like really likes a woman and he really cares about her, he'll get into his masculine and he becomes this provider and this protector, and those instincts kick in, and it shows that what he starts doing is he starts really caring about your well-being and making sure everything's going on. Now, obviously, you don't want any extremes here, right? If he's like overbearing, overprotective, you can't go meet your friends, you can't talk to people, I saw you looking at that guy over there, like any of that kind of stuff, like overbearing craziness is a huge, huge red flag. But so is underprotective, right? Even if it's just on a date, a first date, if he doesn't care at all about your safety, well-being, what's going on with you, that's a giant red flag. Again, the magic is in the middle. Magic is in the middle. A guy who's serious about getting into a committed relationship and he really likes you and he cares about you, he's going to care about your well-being and what's going on with you and making sure you're protected and you're taken care of and all that kind of stuff. Don't use it to your advantage, please. Please don't use men like that. I know you know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's okay. We'll talk about that another time. So if he's not taking your general well-being into consideration, especially if it's been over a long period of time, and making sure that you're taken care of, it's probably not real. Number 5 is he wants to mix your lives together. So he wants to include you in his life, and he wants you to be a part of his life. So you have your lives, and they're like these opposite lives over here, and he comes and he goes, hey, I want you to be a part of my life. And you like get into lives together, right? Men who are serious want to mix lives together. However, here's something very, very important. Never, ever give yourself completely to a relationship. Having a life outside a relationship is healthy. It keeps things from getting stale and boring and weird and crazy, and feeling like the relationship is your life. And if something goes wrong in the relationship, it's like, it's like, oh, he didn't text me back. It's been 5 minutes. It's because your lives are too meshed together, or you don't have enough of a separate identity. Or, there are other things too, right? Like insecurities and stuff like that. However, if there are no mixing of lives together, it's probably not real. It's probably not real. And so you want to have that. Number 6, we've got 8 of these just in case you were wondering. Number 6 is he includes you in his passions. So he tells you about his passions and wants to include you in them to the extent that you're interested in them to some degree, right? So it could be one of those things where he's like doing like Dungeons and he's like dressing up like a knight, and he's got his sword, and then he like goes off into these battlefields and these live like Dungeons and Dragons role playing live action nerd fests where he like runs in there and he's like, thou art dead, and he like pretends like he's shooting fireballs and stuff, like, and you show up and you're just like, you know what, this is cool or whatever, but it's just not my thing. Or maybe he's like into like goes to lakes all the time. He's into like professional stone skipping, where he's just like skipping stones for like 20, 30 hours a week and stuff. And you show up and you're just like wanting to punch yourself in the face. It's okay. You can just hang out there and watch them skipping stones or whatever. It's actually pretty impressive. People that can skip stones. I don't know if you've tried this before. If you can skip stones across the water, it's an impressive feat. If you haven't seen it, you should go look it up on YouTube. Really interesting stuff. It's okay if you're not that into his stuff. He still wants to talk to you about it. He still wants to include you in it. He still wants to share that kind of stuff with you. And that's a good sign. It's a really, really good sign. If he doesn't tell you about his passions at all, if he's not trying to include you in any of them, he either has none, right? And he's just living a boring, quiet, desperate life where he's just going through the motions and all that kind of stuff, or it's probably not real. One of the two. Either one is a really bad sign, right? If he's just going through life waiting to die or whatever, or he's not including you because it's not real. Either one of those is bad. Number 7, he cares about you, right? He cares about you. So he cares about your needs. He cares about your opinions. He sides with you on things that you care about. He wants you to side with him on things that he cares about. He cares about you, your opinions, what's going on with you. That is a great sign. It's a great sign, right? He cares. He cares about you. He thinks you're wonderful. You're a snowflake. You're amazing. You're a beautiful butterfly. He wants you to fly high, beautiful butterfly. If he doesn't show that he cares about you at all, it's probably not real. It's probably not real. Number eight, he's consistent over time. So people, in my opinion, my humble opinion, people are jumping into relationships way too quickly these days, right? They see somebody and they're like, you're amazing, right? And they jump all over them and they're like jumping on each other and they totally ignore all the red flags, what's going on with each other and all that kind of stuff, right? And they're really, everything's really great, but that's because you're in a honeymoon phase. You're in a honeymoon phase and you're jumping all over each other, right? Dancing around, having fun, doing the hokey pokey. And it's just, my suggestion is that you wait a little bit longer. I suggest that you wait at least 3 months before you enter into at least 3 months before you enter into any real relationship. Studies that they've done have found that most people are really good at hiding for at least 3 months. Some people can do it for longer, like a lot longer than that. My cousin got married to this woman. They'd known each other for like 8-9 years or something like that. And she apparently was faking it the whole time they were dating. Right? And they got married and all that kind of stuff. But, that's why you should wait. That's why you should wait and see if there are any red flags that come up. I've also got a commitment test that I talk about in my program, The Forever Man. It's a really simple test. It's important that you know quickly whether he wants to commit or not. I'm going to go over the different signs here, and then I'm going to start answering some questions, whatever questions you have. So number 1 is transparency. Number 2 is future plans. Number 3 is he makes time for you. Number 4 is he's protective of you. Number 5 is he wants to mix your lives together. Number 6 is he includes you in his passions. Number 7 is that he cares about you. And number 8 is that he's consistent over time.